and welcome to the Forget CRM, Think MCR webinar. Maximize your customer relationships. Before we get going, I thought I'd just get things started with a quick introduction. People often asking the question, who the hell is Andy Hanselman? I will get some bad news out of the way straight away. I'm a management consultant, and we help businesses get better at what they do by what we call thinking in 3D. I work with a real mix of businesses. You'll see up here, some you'll know, some you won't know. And the reason I'm putting them up there because I'm a generalist. I don't work with a particular sector, very often because we find many businesses have very, very similar challenges. And we help businesses and their people think in 3D, which means being dramatically and demonstrably different. And people say to me, Andy, why 3D? What's all that about? Well, I actually think we are in a dramatically and demonstrably different world. In fact, just last year I was driving along in my car, and a friend of mine, Henry, was in the passenger seat, said, Andy, what's that? And I said, it's my iPod. He looked at me very, very indignantly and said, how come you've got the old-fashioned version? Henry was 7. He's 8 now, so that's very important. But one of the things that I actually did a bit of research, the year before Henry was born, Facebook was 2, YouTube was 1, Twitter had just been born, we didn't even have iPhones, Spotify was just an idea, and MySpace was the biggest social media website going. Now, I'm not here to talk about social media all the time. What I'm trying to say here is that we're in a fast-moving, dramatically and demonstrably different world. And we've actually researched and identified 7 characteristics of dramatically and demonstrably different businesses. We've even written a book about it. And these 7 characteristics are there. We're not going to go through them all now. But one of them is characteristic 4, forget CRM, think MCR. And that's this whole idea of maximizing customer relationships. And our definition of this is proactively developing relationships and give the best to and get the best from the customers that you want. And the emphasis here very much is on getting the best from. We work with a lot of clients who spend a lot of time giving the best to, which is great, giving fantastic customer service. They don't always get the returns. And the key thing here is making sure that we're maximizing the opportunities that we get. A couple of things just to stress, this is not having a go at CRM systems. Of course, they can be incredibly useful. The issue I often have is that people say to me, oh, Andy, we've got a new CRM system and the whole world's going to change. Actually, all they end up with is a large database with lots of names and numbers in it. That's what we do with it that counts, and that's what this whole idea of MCR is all about. This session is going to take you through the key ingredients of maximizing customer relationships, what they are, what they're not, and also highlight how 3D businesses make them work for them. And hopefully what that will allow you to do is generate some ideas which we'll be giving you on actually how to make these things work for you in your business. And the way we're going to do it is take you through a very simple 3-step process called awareness, assessment, action. Awareness is about painting pictures, giving examples. Assessment is you taking a bit of time out to say, well, how do we measure up as a business? How do I measure up in my role in my business? And then more importantly, what actions we're going to take to make this stuff work. And just to let you know, there'll be more information on my website, andyhanselman.com. You can also download the slides and some other resources at andyhanselman.com/forgetcrm. And they'll be there for you to take them. Please use them and get involved, get other people involved in actually making these things work for you. But I guess the first sort of question is, why MCR? What's this stuff all about? Well, I don't know if these things are things that you're experiencing, but our clients tell us these are typical things that we see and certainly they experience day in, day out. First of all, customer expectations are getting higher. And the research suggests that 75% of UK customers, for example, think that customer service levels are at an all-time low. I'm not necessarily sure that customer service levels are at an all-time low. What it is that expectations have actually got higher. They want what they want, when they want it, how they want it. And I think, again, what we're sort of seeing is provide opportunity and threat. Very simple story. Many years ago, in the good old days, I came home from school, getting ready to watch Blue Peter. Walked into our living room, see my mum sat there watching television. And in those days, mums never watched television during children's hour. What's going on? And all I could see on television were all these old men talking about things that no real understanding of what they were about. It was the budget. As a result, because we only got a few channels, nothing else got shown. We didn't see Blue Peter that particular evening. Whereas today, I could watch it on iPlayer. I could Sky Plus it, I can record it and watch it when I want, how I want. It's not just television. I do get my newspaper by my iPad, no matter where I am in the world, it's there every morning. I can shop when I want, wherever I want on Amazon. I can watch movies on Netflix. I don't have to buy the whole album, I just buy the tracks I want on iTunes. I can listen to the radio, I can listen to our local radio, I can listen to Sheffield United's commentary, wherever I'm in the world, I'm tuning radio. And, as you're already doing now, you don't have to go to sit in training rooms to listen to smarty pants like me doing these things. You can go on things like Training Post, where you can actually download training programs to watch on your iPad at your own convenience. Just let you know there is one up there on creating delighted with customers that we've done. Have a look. The other thing we're seeing is customers don't believe the hype. 76% of consumers don't believe that companies tell the truth in advertisements. And again, when I was a kid, we honestly believed that for MASH, you had to get Smash. And that's what we did. We just followed blindly. Customers are becoming experts. The world is becoming more and more transparent. I'm yet to go on the website of a hotel that says we offer a fantastic customer experience, apart from Tuesdays and Thursdays when Kevin, the manager, isn't here. Of course, we're going to say great things about our own businesses on our websites, in our marketing materials, in our presentations. It's what others are saying that counts. For example, TripAdvisor suddenly starts giving the views of other people before you book a hotel. Petrolprices.com, it's not going to be for everybody, but type in your password and it'll tell you the next square miles of where you live, the petrol prices in all the local garages, and give you updates. That's not for everybody. My father-in-law loves that. He drives miles. The point being is that as a result of it, customers are becoming experts. Their expectations are getting higher, but they also know a lot more, in inverted commas, because they've read it on the internet. Some of that is genuinely great stuff. Equally, what it also does is raises expectations, sometimes beyond really what we can deliver. And factor 5 is that there's greater promiscuity. It is easier for customers to walk away now. If you walked out of a shop, put your phone down on somebody, couldn't get through to the person you wanted to speak to, it's easier for people to walk away. So what does it all mean? Well, I actually think it means we've got to work a lot harder at building and maintaining trust with our customers and prospects. But particularly our customers, it's about consistency. And it's quite interesting how some businesses are doing this. Some are being very, very upfront about their products and services. Seriously, it's actually about this whole idea of maximising customer relationships. And what I'm going to share with you is 10 ideas, and they are just that, ideas. It's not do these 10 things, everything will be brilliant overnight. I'm going to share with these ideas. Your challenge is to work out what do these mean for you in your business and in your role in the business. So, don't forget, you can take the slides, you don't have to write everything down, but here we go. Idea 1. It's all about focus. And one of the things that we find the best businesses do and the best people involved in this stuff do is they take a step back to look at the relationships they've got at the moment. And what you've got here is a very simple 2x2 grid that actually just explains and helps you maybe look at the relationships you've got with your customers. And when I talk about customers, I'd like to stress this is internal customers as well. And one way of looking at it is whether they're getting what they want out of the relationship, they're achieved, or they're not. And it's also whether you're getting what you want out of it, or you're not. So just think about some of the relationships that you've got and see if you can see any of these. For example, have you ever been in the giving relationship where the customer's doing very well at this, thank you very much, but you're not? You're delivering a great service, you're bending over backwards for them, but they're not necessarily giving you the profit margins you want, or they're not paying you on time, or they're not paying you. It's the can you just. Now again, I'm not saying we shouldn't look to exceed expectations, but there comes a point if you're not careful, whereas if you can bend over backwards so far, you fall over. And a couple of questions for me on that one. Are you in that box because you've let it be in there, or are you in there because the customer's consciously and deliberately put you in there and it's regularly playing off against your competitors? Key question for me is how far do you go and at what point do you try and get out of it? If you're not careful, you move then into the losing relationship, where you're not getting what out of it that you want, but neither is the customer. Ever had a situation, no matter what you seem to do, it just seems to cause more grief, more hassle. This can be draining emotionally, resource-wise, but guess who gets blamed? It's you. The taking relationship, on the short term, sometimes seems quite a positive thing. We're doing very well at this, thank you very much. But if the customer realises that they're actually getting what they want out of it, you are, eventually you get found out. The world is becoming more transparent. So I'm not saying you shouldn't look to charge premium prices and to get what the best you can out of customers, but the key thing is making sure they get the best out of it too. And the aim here is to go for the maximised relationship, where the customer gets what they want out of it, but so do you. So a key thing for me might be, have you actually worked out what it is you want? You know what they want. And it's worth pointing out that the maximised relationship could be something very simple. I ring you up, I get a price for what you're offering, I place an order, you deliver it, you invoice me, I pay you on time, and it's done, it's a transaction, that's great. But it might also be we pool resources and energies and budgets together to develop something much bigger on a bigger scale. In other words, this is a very subjective thing. It's a way of just looking at your relationships. And a couple of things I find quite useful to do, I have to take top teams away and sales teams away to look at these things. And some questions for you to consider, and these are things you could do with your relationships. Do you have a clear picture of what you actually want from your customer relationships? Have you actually spelled out what you want from it? That could be in terms of volumes, value, type of work. Whereabouts on this grid are your key customer relationships? And maybe one of the things you might want to know is, how do you actually know? The little hint here is, see what your customers think. What can you do to find out? Again, see what your customers think. Ask them, where would they see things? Which way are those relationships heading? Are you just teaching on the edge and heading one way? What are the things you need to do to actually get this to where you want it to be? And another quick question for me, because this does involve everybody in the business, not just the salespeople, but internal salespeople, operations people, hey, even the financial people. What do they think? And again, a thing might be to do is just to ask them. So get some focus, work out what these things mean for you and for your customers. Idea 2 is, well, knowing me, knowing you. How well do you know them? More importantly, how well do you know what they think? We hear lots of people talking about using data, and again, this is where the CRM systems could come in very well. But it's actually what we do with that data that counts. For example, see these two customers. Customer 1, male, born 1948, grew up in England, second marriage, 2 children, successful, wealthy, enjoys skiing in the Alps in winter, likes dogs. Customer 2, male, born 1948, grew up in England, second marriage, 4 children, successful, wealthy, enjoys skiing in the Alps in winter, likes dogs. You could argue they'd be very similar. Maybe? Maybe not. These are real people. Any idea who they are? Try this one with your team. Customer 1 is Prince Charles. Customer 2 is Ozzy Osbourne. Similar demographics, very, very different, I suspect, personal needs. So this whole idea for me is actually getting closer to your customers. And I work with a client of mine with a little framework, which again, you could use with your customers. How well do you and your people know about your customers and their expectations of you? Do you actually know what they want from you? Is it clear? Is it spelled out? Do you understand their perception of your performance? In other words, how well do they think you're doing against those expectations? Do you understand their perception of your capabilities? Do you actually know when they use you, when they use somebody else, why they use you? This can be quite revealing, which we'll talk about in a bit. Also, their aspirations, future plans and problems. What does that mean for you and your long-term relationship? I argue very often that, again, can create opportunities for you. And how well do you know them personally? And one of the things to start doing is saying, if you were to look at your key customers, where would you actually identify the gaps in your knowledge about these? What do you need to do to fill those gaps? Because once you know this stuff, you can then actually start making it work. Idea 3 is what we call choose them or lose them. And what we see successful businesses do, 3D businesses, identify the customers they want to work with. They work out who those best customers are and put their efforts in accordingly. Interestingly, lots and lots of businesses don't actually know their profitable customers and products. Do you? Do you actually know where your margins come from, where the best business is with the customers that you work with? And the key thing for me here isn't just how much they spend, it's also looking at the concept of what I call value for time. How much time, energy, resource does this customer actually take for the returns you're getting? And it might mean, having done the analysis, that you get rid of the customers you don't want. And again, let me just stress, I'm not suggesting you start hurling abuse at customers you don't like after this webinar. What I'm saying is make a conscious decision. Maybe you could reduce your reliance on them. So what we're looking for you to think about here are, who are your best customers? And again, it's worth pointing out that best doesn't necessarily mean spends the most. I actually worked with a client of mine where we had a group of guys together, and the sales guys saying, these are our best customers, Andy, and they're getting this list of customers. And I said, why? Oh, they spend loads with us. The financial guy said, yes, they do, but they never pay. So best might mean different things for different businesses in their different stages of their growth and development. So actually have a look at this and work out what this means for you in your business. Does everybody in your business understand who the best customers are? And as a result of it, do they actually approach them in the right way? And are your customer relationship efforts and resources focused accordingly? So have you identified who the best customers are? Are you making this stuff work for you? As a result of that, can you actually develop specific plans for each key customer? Idea 4, create dialogue, not diatribes. This is this whole idea of creating conversations with customers, but first of all, making sure that it's in the format that they actually want. And what we're looking at here is, do we actually find out what they think? Very simple example. National Trust identified that one of the biggest barriers to families using their facilities was that some kids thought they were boring. So actually created as a National Trust Kids Council where they actually asked them what do they want. They got their views and opinions and tailored their approach and their marketing to getting kids and families on board, and it worked. Another great example of actually getting dialogue with customers and just getting engaged with what they did was Innocent Smoothies. They had a competition where people could actually come up with captions to put at the bottom of the cartons. Again, just a very fun way of getting customers engaged. Ella's Kitchen, the guys that produce high quality, very healthy kids food, they have little competitions where they encourage their customers to send in photographs of people with their food faces. And here's Charlie who won the last one. Great examples of engaging customers. The key bit here is actually about getting permission. And what that's really working out is getting them to contact you, to actually say, yes, I want you to contact us, but working out what is the best way to do it. Just thinking about format, it's thinking about frequency. Thinking about what are the key messages. And a little tool that we use with our clients is a little thing called CNN. Think about your customers. And whenever possible, personalize it as much as you can. What information is critical to them? What's nice to know? What's noise? Clearly, we're going to make sure that we're not sending noise. Because if you don't work these things out, they can't see the critical and even the nice to know stuff. So what does this mean for your business? And one of the things we get people to think about here is this whole idea of dialogue is actually about reflecting what they say. So if they do fill in a feedback form, if they do give you a comment, if they complain even, feedback to them, acknowledge it, do something with it. Very simple example, again, is about doing this in their channels. And again, not everybody will like this one, but when O2 had problems 18 months, 2 years ago, there was actually riots on Twitter, people saying all sorts of things about them, and they looked at ways to engage with their customers. This was one of the tweets that one of their customers actually put out there. This is how one of their team responded. I'm not suggesting you should be swearing to and from your customers. What I'm going to say here is find the channel that works for them. And it's about creating conversations. Never fails to amaze me how many businesses spend a lot of time sending standard questionnaires out that nobody responds to. Why not consider some of these questions? And again, I'm not saying use all these in one go, but think about these to prompt some conversations with your customers, some of your customers, even just some of the questions. But think about these. Why do you buy from us? Be careful how you ask that one. Why do you buy from us is actually maybe undermining a lot of your marketing activities. What we're saying there is what do they see are the things that you're good at and what attracted them to you. When do you buy from us? More importantly, maybe when do they buy from you? When do they buy from your competitors? What would you do if we weren't here? Maybe just start to identify some of the options. What one thing could we do better? Rather than just how could we improve? You have to be specific to focus on something. Name one individual in our business who actually impressed you. And again, I'd argue if they can't do that, then maybe certain things aren't working. Here's a strange one, but it gets people thinking in a slightly different way. If Carlsberg ran our business, what would it look like? You know, the adverts just get thinking in a slightly different way. Name one thing that we do or don't do that irritates or annoys you. Again, focusing on one particular thing, get the thoughts and views. Who can we learn from? That maybe helps identify who they're benchmarking you against and what their expectations are. What would you say to someone else who asks you about us? One of the words and phrases that they've used, that might give you a bit of insight into what they think. And what is the one thing we should never stop doing? I'm not suggesting you ask all those questions. What I'm saying here is just maybe start thinking a bit more imaginatively about the sort of questions you can start asking to create real conversation. Idea 5 is all about adding value. People often say to us when we do customer attitude surveys for our clients, we often only hear from them when they're chasing an order or chasing a bill. Well, why not find ways to add value? For example, I saw this and thought of you. Send some information. It could be some local industry news. Some information actually will help them think about you. The good thing about this is, and you can still personalise it, send it to a number of people who are in similar situations or sectors. So, things that might be useful to them. Again, make sure it's relevant. Don't send them stuff that isn't relevant to them because they'll start switching off. Identify problems. If you've solved a particular problem in one customer, do other customers have those? Could you create it as a case study? Use this stuff to demonstrate what you do and how you do it. And generate ideas, provide ideas. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Again, key thing here is making sure these things are relevant. Idea 6 is get personal. Very simple story. I did some customer care training at a client of mine. Went to visit them 6 months on. Arrived at the offices, and there was a little sign saying, "Welcome to Andy Hanselman." Quite nice. Walked in. Andrew, the office junior, stood behind reception and walked in. He says, "Hi, Andy, how are you doing?" I said, "Great, thank you. How are you?" She said, "Fantastic." He says, "You had a good trip from Sheffield?" I said, "I have." I thought it was quite good. She went from about I was from Sheffield. He said, "John, within a couple of minutes, can you hang on?" I said, "Yeah, of course I can." She said, "Would you like a cup of coffee while you're waiting?" I said, "That'd be brilliant." She goes, "It's black, no sugar, isn't it?" "How did you know that?" I said, "But it's my job to know." Training, it obviously worked. What we've got here is someone who's taking responsibility for creating a personalised experience. Simple little things that make customers and visitors feel valued. It doesn't have to be as simple stuff. Sometimes it can be quite technical. This was some research that was done by Hilton Hotels, and particularly for their Conrad group of hotels, they created an app that actually allows people to personalise their day. And you put your details, and it allows you to schedule calls and what time you're. And what it actually does is actually completely vital in to the whole. Contact you. People contact them. There's an email I got from Sheffield United asking me to renew my season ticket. Of course, I was always going to. Lovely personalised experience. What's funny if I take that and actually change the name and put one of your Sheffield Wednesday friends' name and send it on to them. It doesn't go down so well, but it works quite well for me. But it's not just about the technology. Don't write off the old-fashioned ways. Personalised notes, simple compliment slips, handwritten things strike home because we don't see them very often. Personalise it, make it relevant. Even PSs on letters can make a difference. Idea 7 is all about maximising opportunities. And here's an example of somebody who's doing this. It is Ryanair, who are going to start charging people for emergency evacuations. No, they're not really, of course they're not. When I start looking at this stuff, the thing I would really stress, please avoid what I call this whole idea. You've actually bought your newspaper, I've walked through the news agents, I get to the till with my money to buy the newspaper, having walked past lots and lots of bars of chocolate. A member of staff said, "Like a bar of chocolate for £1," in a very dull, boring way. Not their fault, and I've got to say it. And I'm not saying we shouldn't look for opportunities to sell up and sell on. Let's find a natural way of doing it. A couple of years ago, I was on Doncaster train station. I get to all the best places. And the train was running late, and I thought, well, I'll have a cup of coffee. Went to this young man behind the stand, and as I went for my coffee, he said, "You like a Danish with that?" "Yeah, go on, then I'll have one." And I sat down, and I was meeting my Danish. I could see him selling these Danishes to some of his other customers. So I went up to him, being inquisitive, so I said, "Excuse me, have you been trained to do that?" He said, no, this is my business, a little franchise. And he says, "I found by doing it, I actually do create more sales." And I said, "Well, do you ask everybody?" He goes, no, definitely not. I said, "I don't ask my regulars, I don't pester them. And if people have already got food, I don't do it. I just build the conversation." And I said, "Well, just could you take me through the numbers?" Because it was his franchise. He told me that basically he was buying these donuts for Danishes for 25 pence. Selling them for 75, making 50 pence a go. Then how many more do you sell? Because, well, since I've been doing it, and I am actually measuring this, I'm selling an average 40 more a day. That's 20 quid profit a day. 5 days a week, and I think you're going to be working more than 5 days, £100 a week profit. £5,000 profit a year by asking those very, very simple questions. What are the opportunities you could actually have to sell up and sell on? For example, if you want to book me to speak at your next conference or event, it's about educating customers. It isn't just about forcing them to buy stuff. Very simple example, I was at our gym recently, and honestly, and up there was a sign showing fitness usage, and when it was busy, not so busy, and encouraging people to maybe consider using in less busy times. Obviously that helped them with the resourcing, but it also helped them get better experiences and get more people using it. Making customers aware of the things that we provide is very often what this is all about. Idea 8 is to think share of customer, not just share of market. And what this is all about is a little 2x2 grid. Think of it about your customers. How much a year do they spend on the sorts of products and services you actually offer? High spend, low spend. And I recognize it's very subjective. High share, low share. High share, they spend a lot of it with you. Low share, they don't. So by definition, high spend, high share customers are your key customers. Get very close to them. Make sure you're doing this stuff with them as a minimum. Low spend, high share, they don't spend very often. When they do, they come to you. Make sure you keep in touch with them. Make sure that you let them know that you're there, not badgering them with stuff, but keep it relevant. But also, by educating them, can you get the low spend up? I'd argue low spend, low share, just don't bother with it. They're not interested in what you've got to offer, go elsewhere. But this is the interesting one. High spend, low share. They spend a lot each year, but not with you. Poor crap. Why? Why is that? Is it because they don't know what you do? Is it because they're not aware of the full range of products and services that you offer? Find out. And one of the key things for me, again, when you start looking at your relationships is, do you actually know where your key customers are on this? Again, I often take sales teams, we analyse this, I give them the list of customers, and they all put them in different boxes. The point here being, people don't really know. So again, a key thing for me might be to find out. Idea 9 is to give your customers a damn good listening to. And again, it never fails to amaze me how many businesses carry out customer attitude surveys, but don't have any really ongoing feedback mechanism. Or if they do, it's ticking lots of boxes. A great question to ask if you dare, and you can get your frontline people to ask these questions. Well, this question is this. Are you completely happy with what we're doing for you? Or were you completely happy with what we did? Yes or no? Why? Why not? Tough question, but it's a great way of actually getting people to actually give you a real honest answer. If there is a problem, you can fix it, you can sort it, you can do what we call deal with disappointment. Idea 10, leverage. If you are asking people what they think of you and they say great stuff, maybe you should ask them, who else could we be talking to? Can they give you recommendations? Could be the people in their organisation, could be friends, family, could be other people in their networks. Very simple example of this, do this quite a systematic but very imaginative way. There was a business called Charity Water, and they created a campaign where they encouraged people to get their friends to pledge an amount of money for their birthday. So if they were a 15-year-old, they would get their friends to pledge £15, $15 to them. They were £40, $40. What they also built in was a mechanism to encourage people to get people to do it for their birthday next time. And last year they raised $9 million by doing this, giving something to people to tell other people about. One of the things that you do to actually get people talking, that you can encourage people to spread the word about you and your business. I'd argue Amazon do this very, very well. They remember you. You log in, they know who you are, and they remember who you are relatively simply. They're easy to buy from. Their whole one-click mechanism actually allows you to get there when you want, how you want to do it. They keep you informed. They let you know when the goods have been dispatched, what's happening, keeps you informed, again, manages expectations, and what the ability to do is making recommendations. Customers who bought this item also bought. They're quite proactive at letting you know what else they're offering to actually sell up and sell on. And it seems to be working for them. They do it consistently, raising 34 billion. And, well, that's allegedly, obviously not, but I can't say things like that. What I'm saying here is they do things very, very well. So, in conclusions, forget CRM, think MCR. Maximize your customer relationship. Proactively developing relationships, give the best to and get the best from the customers you actually want. And 3 final questions to start thinking a bit about for your business. What does a maximised customer relationship look like for you? How do your current relationships measure up? And what do your customers think? The key thing here is about building relationships. As the great Seth Godin says, selling to people who actually want to hear from you is more effective than interrupting strangers who don't. And it's also about engaging and getting everybody to engage with them. You work at Harley-Davidson, every single member of staff at Harley-Davidson has to spend time at a Harley-Davidson convention. And again, that's the operations people, the finance people, you have to interact with their customers. And the day I know I've got this right, when one of my clients walks in our offices with an Andy Hanselman Consulting tattooed on the back, we know we've cracked it. And here's a quick bonus idea, it's about exceeding expectations. It's all about doing stuff. What is it you're going to do to make this stuff work for you? A couple of things you might want to consider. Buy my book, Thinking 3D, available off the website for $9.99, or, so it's not going to cost you any money, sign up for 3D weekly 3-minute podcasts I do that shares ideas like this, just to keep you in tune with what's going on, help you, prompt you to do things and to take actions. So when we do these things, we often find people can be divided into 3 groups. There are those who make things happen. There are those who watch things happen. There are those who ask what happens if all this goes flying by. What are you? And I can get all these pearls of wisdom from all these grades. I still think this is the most important one. Make it work for you and have a go. Try these things out and see what works for you. It's now time for some questions. Ask any questions. If you're listening to this later on and you want to email, contact us some questions, please feel free to do that. If you go on andyhanselman.com /forget CRM, you can actually get the resources. If you want to email me at andy@completeorgetbeat.com or andy@andyhanselman.com, either of those will work. Send us some questions.